they go, they make their pitch, the brokers, right? They're out there, you're making your pitch, and you fail miserably.
I never thought about failure. I just thought about the end game, tunnel vision, what was there at the end for us to get. Okay.
This is a similar fashion. You got to make money. You got to make sales. You've got to have a lot of people to talk to. You've got to have a lot of action.
Fear is just being unprepared, right? The fear that you have is you're unprepared for the meeting. Fear of what appears to be failure, what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Another good show topic. What's going on in Craig's head? Fear. Show sponsor, Virtue Health. Check us out, virtuealliance.com. The new site is up. It is 10/1 renewals time. Check us out. Give us a shot. Let us look at the case. We'll do you well. That being said, Craig, what do you mean by it?
Failure, or what does it appear to be? It's such an anomaly. It's such a weird thing. It's like trying to hold water. It's something different for everybody. For some people, they go, they make their pitch, the brokers, right? They're out there, you're making your pitch, and you fail miserably. And so what do some people do, right? They shut down. They're like, all right, I'm done, right? I'm not doing that again. They feel shame, right? Some people feel shame. They're like, man, I don't want to go back to the office. I got to tell my boss. I got to tell my partners. I got to tell my spouse, whatever it is. And it eats them alive, right? I mean, we just had the U.S. Open. There was a fellow there who should have made a couple of 3-4 foot putts in the last 3 holes, and he missed 2 out of 3, and he lost the U.S. Open. Pretty sure that he was wanting to quit life there for a minute because he hopped on his private jet and disappeared and didn't do any media. And so, brokers have to understand, I mean, this is it's a human frailty. Well, some people take that as the example and they want to quit. They feel shame. They don't want to face the music. They don't want to learn. Other people use it as motivation to grow. And that's really the fascinating thing to me because, John, as you know, I've been telling brokers for years, I bet there isn't anybody in the United States in the last 7 years who's failed on more pitches than me. But I'll bet you there's no one who's done 9 figures in the last 7 years because I use failure as motivation, and that is the reality that I chose, right? What's the old saying, right? It's either stumbling blocks or stepping stones. You get to choose which it is, and you do that in your mind. And so our public schools, and their education system, it indoctrinates our children from the youngest ages, and it brainwashes them into thinking that failure is bad. Bullshit. Failure is how you learn. You want to fail fast. That's a great book, by the way. Fail fast. Yeah, we've got to learn. We've got to create a different mindset that failure is good.
There's massive fear of failing. I think, talking to a lot of people, that's not entrepreneur. I think the entrepreneurs, we have less of a problem with it because we don't have no choice at some point. Or I always used to call it tunnel vision that I never thought about failure. I just thought about the end game. Tunnel vision, what was there at the end for us to get. Okay. Yeah. I figured it wasn't going to go smooth, but I didn't really have a choice. Right. But I think we're in today's world, when you look at failure, you should be having lots of failures, but on a micro level, right? Not on a macro level. You can't fail on a macro level or you're going to be in trouble. But you can have a lot of failures on a micro level, as Gary Vaynerchuk talks about. Right. I mean, There's so many different things he talked about in his business, how many things he failed at before he had wins and the businesses that he sold for, 9 figures. And I mean, the one year he did 100 million on the VFriend NFT thing. I mean, the guys failed at a bunch of things as he talked about. Right. And so we're in this game of healthcare. And if we relate to strictly to the one business side of going, well, what are we fearful of? What are we going to fail in? We're going to fail in the meetings. I failed in tons of meetings. You know how many meetings that I had? And I think that I do pretty good in those meetings. And I've had phenomenal meetings. And I've closed a lot of business. And you know how many meetings I've had where I go, why the hell did I say? I blew it. One word. I went down. I took one word. I hit the fork and I went the wrong way. And it went right down a rabbit hole. And that was it. And I could have been on a call with a broker and I knew it and felt it. Then you feel really shitty. And you want to roll up in a ball and go, God,
Why did I
I want
do
to go
that?
crawl into my bed and go, not only did I screw it up for me, maybe I messed it up for the broker and who was a prospect. I don't know. Right. And so what do? You roll up in a ball, you quit. Well, I think it's okay to quit for a day. I mean, was watching The Sopranos, and we have Paulie from The Sopranos, and he gave Chrissy his book in the show, right? He became a maid guy, so he got his book,
Yeah.
right? And he found out, wow, this is not easy running a book. We're upside down because I didn't place bets on this group, or I didn't lay off some of the action over here. He's upside down, right? He's crying to the car to Paulie, and Paulie goes, "Hey, go home, Chrissy. Get some rest. Tomorrow's a new day." And I think that's what you have to look at it. As far as what I do, that's how I do it. If I have a really shitty day, I sometimes just call it quits because I'm just not going to have much production out of it.
Yeah,
It's
you
like
got to regroup. You got to regroup and reset button, man. Reset button.
it's like it reminds me of when you play poker. You never play as good as you do when you're winning, or it's as good as you do when you're. What's the saying? You never play as good as you do when you're winning is when you're losing, right? And so if you're losing, you're supposed to quit. What happens? Players continue to play. So when they're losing, they try to chase their money. They play 12 to 18 hours. When they're winning, they quit early and they go home. When it should be the complete opposite. And so I look at it that way when I'm having a bad day, and you guys could use it the way you want to use it. But I've always went home, take a nap, start over, rest up, clear my mind, start over again.
Hey, John, it's real similar, right? You can relate this to more of our audience than say me, but it's very similar to relationships. You all have had multiple relationships, and some went up in flames, and some just died of neglect, and some might have blew up in the car. Uh, and what do? I mean, do you stop dating? No, but you got to regroup. Might take a while to get back into the game, but um, it's a similar fashion. You got to make money. You got to make sales, right? And that the other side of this is when you get back in, what we've talked about ad nauseum is you've got to have a lot of people to talk to. You've got to have a lot of action, because when you don't, you sound needy and desperate, and that just makes part of failure, more
Well,
probabilistic.
it brings the fear, which you think is failure, right? I'm
Yeah.
worrying about failing because I'm scared. The next cold call, the next follow up of a prospect becomes anxiety. What I see here, post COVID world, is anxiety, social anxiety. I didn't realize it until I flew back to New Jersey and I had to go on a retail meeting to go visit clients that I actually like visiting. And I hadn't been on a meeting in so long that I got social anxiety in a meeting, and I was like, what the hell is going on? I was a master in a
You had to
meeting,
practice.
walking into meetings with complete strangers, just thrilled, excited, ready to pitch, loving it, couldn't get enough of it. And here I am with one of my clients that I adore, who's been nice to me, gets it. I
Yeah.
go to see him, and I start getting anxiety from the meeting of being one-on-one with somebody. Actually, no, I wasn't one-on-one, just being live with somebody. So don't quit. Fear, what they talk about too, if you follow Alex Harmonzi, who I like,
He's
puts out
great.
real good stuff. He goes, fear is just being unprepared, right? The fear that you have is you're unprepared for the meeting, right?
Yeah. Tony Robbins, false evidence appearing real, right? It's all an illusion. It's what you tell yourself it is in the 6 inches between your ears. That's the whole game of life, everybody. This is programmable software. You've been lied to your whole life. You can change it, you can modify it, and you can change it just that fast if you have a big enough reason why you need to change, why you have to change, why it's a must, why it's emotional. It's not just physical, it's not just mental. It is your entire being. Failure is not an option. That mindset will carry you farther than, well, let's just see what happens, and I'll do my best.
And look, in this episode, we're talking about fear and explaining to you that we go through it as well, right? Even the most successful people go through it. Funny, I was having a conversation in a gym with somebody today, and they were talking about the same thing of what's running through their head all day. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not going to go into specifics, but how are you worried about that? how could you be worried about that and you're thinking about that all day? And this is the games and the tricks that the mind plays on you. And that's what you have to realize is and it's not going to be easy, is how do I deflect out or compartmentalize? I can never say that word.
Yeah.
Um,
Compartmentalize.
compartmentalize all those thoughts, right? And push them to the side as you're
You
trying
have
to do
to.
what you're trying to do. Because
Yeah.
you're, like we talked about in the last show, you're going to have to go through a period of time where you have to do things that you hate doing, and you have to get up every day and do them. Look, I've been getting up at 5 a.m. now to go to the gym. I despise it. I hate going, right?
Wait, who are
But
you? Who are you? What?
but
5
yeah,
a.m.
it is a
Jesus.
mental battle every single morning. And these are the mental battles you're going to go through. If you're an advisor right now, right, and you're going through a slump, you're coming out of slow time, maybe you're coming in a transition from one brokerage to another, and you're feeling a lot of fear. You're feeling a lot of pressure, right? It's going to be normal, right? That is normal. You know the playbook. You go back to the basics. This isn't a rocket science business, guys. You know what it takes to be successful,
Hey,
especially if you
Nelson,
closed the account
it ain't
before.
rocket surgery.
Yeah. You've been successful before. You close accounts before, go back to doing what you're doing. The challenge is restarting the sales cycle, just like we're restarting the show. I'm not going to be good and as smooth as we were when we're running a show for multiple years and not missing a week, right? It's going to take time to get back into it. And you're going to fear coming on over and over and over. And even the top guys, maybe it was Beyonce who said she, is scared to death before every single performance, scared to death going out, right? Billionaire superstar, scared to death, even at this level of her career. So look, it's a mental game.
It totally is, John. You know how many times I've had to look in the mirror over the last 7 years and go, okay, what if I took 100% ownership and I decided, what if I'm the problem? How can I fix it? How can I solve it? How can I make it better? How can I change the way I say what I say? How can I change my tonality? How can I change my attitude, my behavior, my stories? You have to be willing to be introspective and look at your performance objectively. And trust me, that little critic in all of our brains, it wants to trash you. It wants to say, see, don't be uncomfortable. Change that thermostat, God darn it. I don't want you to be uncomfortable. Stop doing this stuff that makes you don't talk to those big groups. Just stick to the 12-man groups you're comfortable with. And it's all these things in life. It happens to every single person. And the successful people just find a way to do the things that unsuccessful people won't. And for most people, they quit when they fail. And they'll never realize their potential. And it's inside everybody. It's inside all of us. You have to push through. You have to become comfortable becoming uncomfortable. And I guarantee you, all the cool shit in life happens on the other side of comfort. I've lived it.
Yeah, I mean, look, every day, if you just get up, I was talking to somebody the other day and kind of giving them advice on what I've been going through and challenges, let's say, of the routine. And I said, look, I hate it. I get up every day, go to the gym, but it just gets easier as I continue to do it, or I do it every day versus stopping and going. Continuing to do it is the key. Whether you're cold, I mean, everybody knows who's cold call out there to pick up the phone sucks. And then the longer you wait, the worse it gets. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But the fear builds up, the mindset builds up. You don't get a win for a while, like we talked about before. I'm a loser, and then I'm on top of the world once I close the sale. I'm the best salesman in the world. So, it's this false reality that we create in our head. I'm not saying I have the answer for it because I don't think it goes away.
Yeah, awareness is really 50% of the solution. If you got to understand, guys, 95% of our lives is operated in the subconscious. Think about it. If we had to think about breathing and walking and moving our limbs and making our ears work, I mean, you'd never function. Everything you do is subconscious. So the ability to pay attention, to capture these automatic negative thoughts and to capture these auto responders that you have in your brain that wants you to not be uncomfortable, that wants you to be comfortable, that wants you to make less money, and that wants you to always be in a world of scarcity. It's bullshit. You have to catch those thoughts. You have to become aware of those thoughts and decide and tell your brain, no, that's not a productive thought for me. Go throw that in the trash can, throw it in the shredder. Here's what I need to think about. Here's what I need to focus on. So what you think about, what you act on, what you speak about, what you talk about every day becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Think as though, act as if, and it shall be. I think it's in the #1 best-selling book of all time, the Bible. Gee, how did they come up with that? Because human nature is human nature. Talk about it, think about it, work on it, share it. You'll manifest it. You just have to stick to it.
In today's world, here's one of the biggest problems with fear is we're concerned about what other people are going to say. We're concerned about what other people are going to think.
That's shame.
I go through it too. Look, we've got to come on this show. You're going to be on video. You're going to be giving your thoughts, and people are going to chew you up on it, right? And so that can cause fear. That can cause reluctance not to do it. And so whether you're trying to do stuff on LinkedIn, or what have you in front of your friends, so on and so forth, but we're very worried because of the social world that we're in, what other people think. And yet nobody really gives a shit about. They may say one thing in their head, but who cares? Does it change anything in your life?
John, as you go through the 9 innings of life, you start to realize, in the second and third innings in your 20s and 30s, you think everybody's looking at you and everybody's thinking about you and you're worried about what you look like and all this bull. And then you get a little bit older and you realize, especially if you have kids and you have family and you have responsibilities, and it's an entirely different life than being single. All of a sudden you get older and you realize no one's ever really given a shit about me. They're not thinking about me. They got all their own issues. They got all their own problems. What the hell was I worried about? It's just whatever, it's what everybody goes through. So why wait until you're older to have this revelation? Because you can read about it. You can watch videos about it. We all know it's a human predicament. So don't suffer from it needlessly.
Just think about when you have a conversation with somebody. Before you finish your story or conversation, they're interrupting you talking about something else. They couldn't even concentrate and think about you while they're in front of you. You're talking to them, telling them the story, and they still didn't give a shit about you or what you were saying. And you're at home in bed thinking about posting a video on LinkedIn or Facebook or trying to market or doing a cold call. Yeah. And you're concerned how you appear to what other people. What else we got here, Craig?
Hey man, it's a full plate right there. That's a lot to get the brains around.
You've become a master of emotion. How do you control those things in your head? I interact with you a lot. I've seen Craig lose $150,000 accounts, $250,000, $1 million. No, I've seen you lost $1 million account, and you don't even flinch. You don't even cry. You don't even whine about it. Not even a little whine. Hey, John, can you believe this? No, you just said, hey, we just lost $1 million account. And I go, what?
Yeah. I
start crying about it. What happened? How do you build that up? Is it experience? Is it over time?
Yeah.
Is it age?
It is. It's over time, right? I love the saying my son gave me years ago, Mark Lack. He said, Dad, going to the gym, the habit is more important than the effort. And so that's kind of like everything in life. And so the habit, I was a really angry young guy. I grew up in a batshit crazy house, and everybody yelled at each other. Nobody talked. And of course, I'm a pretty much a very calm guy. I don't like to have to experience those extremes. I can. You probably don't want me to, but I can. And so I chose to be very calm. And so the reality of that is you have to learn to start to catch those thoughts, catch those emotions, those triggers that want to set off your little sarcasm, angry button, whatever it is for you. And as you get better and more versed at catching those thoughts and catching those feelings, you can stop them. And then you can choose to have a different reaction. Jack Canfield gave me the best line ever. He said, Craig, E plus R equals O. E is the experience, R is the reaction, O is the outcome. The vast majority of the entire world spends their time complaining about the experience that they've had or the outcome that they've experienced and the results that they got, none of which they can control, while avoiding the one thing they can control, and that's the reaction. And so the very simple formula is focus on the one thing you can control, and that's your reactions to events, to actions, to words, to behaviors, to attitudes, to looks. I know I got friends who, just the wrong look from a server can set them off. And so those are just behaviors that you can learn to control. And it's like a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it gets until it becomes ultimately unconscious. And that's the whole game.